Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with all of us today on our first day of the Building Inclusive Communities event, that is the panel discussion about multiculturalism. I would like to introduce you to Cisolia. She's a Squamish Nation elder.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Squamish Nation territory and to my brothers and sisters of the North, West, South, East. I'd like to thank you all for joining us and the guests. It's such an awesome subject that you guys are starting with us having Multicultural Day for several years at the Totem Hall. I am really happy to be participating in this. And thank you for asking me to do the opening. Very warming. And it goes hand in hand with what I experienced yesterday was our winter dancers dancing. And it was fantastic. I've never seen so many young people from the age 35 up and dancing the old way and being spirits of the wild, you know, the animal spirits. And 3 of them were my nephews, which makes it more, I guess, merely love feeling that, you know, the future is going to have a chance. And we're not looking at drug and alcohol people. I was so happy last night with them. So I'll say a prayer and you can pray in your own way. Thank you. Could I get a copy of this tape after? I mean, you're going to videotape it. I'd like to have a copy of it.
Yes, it'll be recorded. It's on Facebook Live as well.
Okay. Oh, great Creator, thank you for calling us all together this evening for a really good cause. We are all your students from all over the continent. The 4 directions are included in this. I'd like to thank our hosts for calling on the Squamish Nation and being part of the other nations as well. I hope one day we can all join this group at the Totem Hall with our group. I would like to thank each and every one of you that attended and put a blessing on each and every one of you here. I'd like to put a blessing on the ones that couldn't attend and would have liked to be here. Your hands on the youth and the elderly and the unborn. We are here speaking for the future, and I would like to say that and have it witnessed because we are working for the future. All my relations. Hosiam. Okay.
Thanks, Cisolia. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that I'm joining this event from the traditional and unceded territory of Shisha Nation. And this event is also being hosted on the traditional and unceded territory of Lillooet. My name is Juliana, and I am the settlement and outreach worker with the Welcoming Communities on Sunshine Coast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-worker, Beck. She is the settlement and integration worker with the Whistler and Pemberton Welcome Centers. So Beck and I will be the co-facilitators for the multiculturalism panel discussion today. I would like to let you know this event is brought to you by the Whistler Multicultural Society in partnership with the Whistler, Pemberton, and Squamish Welcome Centers and Sunshine Coast Welcoming Communities. Our thanks to Canadian Heritage and the Resort Municipality of Whistler for making this event possible. So I would like to go through some housekeeping for our session today. This event is being streamed on Facebook Live and it's being recorded. So it's your choice to keep your camera on or to turn your camera off. We do request that you keep your microphone on mute. And please, if you have any questions for the panel members during the session, we ask you to use the chat function to type up your questions. So the chat box is at the bottom of your screen. And at the end, we are going to collect the questions for the panel members. We also have some agreements and expectations for this session to set some boundaries. This event and community discussion is about encouraging an open dialogue about building more inclusive communities in the Citrus Sky and Sunshine Coast region. For that to happen, this needs to be a safe place where everyone feels respected. We ask everyone here to respect each other's views, opinions, experience, and time. We don't have to agree, but we do need to respect each other. As moderators, we will do our best to manage this. Thank you everyone in advance for the respectful conversation that we are going to have today. Let's open the discussion, everybody, with this warm-up exercise. You can use the chat to engage to each other, to say hello, and let's warm up a little bit. And I would like to suggest you to use the chat to let us know a little bit about yourself. So where are you from? What's your background? And which language do you speak? So please go ahead and do that now, and you can type up on our chat, and we can see how diverse is our audience today. Okay, Beck, would you like to take over and tell us about our agenda for today?
Thanks, Juliana. So today it's all about bringing a panel of community members together to talk about multiculturalism. We'll start with the discussion with 2 questions that we've prepared, and then we'll have a chance to put some questions from the audience to the panel. At the end, if there's time, there will also be an opportunity for the audience to speak, ask any final questions, or share your own perspectives or experiences. But first, I'd like to welcome Patrick Weiler, Member of Parliament for the Sea to Sky and Sunshine Coast, who would like to say a few words. Thanks, Patrick.
Oh, well, thank you, Beck, for the kind introduction, and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me or inviting me to be here with you today. I'm streaming from the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I'd like to thank these nations for the stewardship of these lands and waters since time immemorial. And I also want to thank Cecilia for the prayer and for welcoming us to today's event. And it's a privilege to be here with organizations that have done so much to help welcome and support new Canadians to our country so that they can feel at home as valued members of our community. And I think it's incredibly important that the first session of Building Inclusive Communities is focused on multiculturalism, because multiculturalism is one of Canadians' core values. It's often said that Canadians take pride in not being American, and of course this is true. And apart from the Indigenous peoples that existed here long before settlers, both countries are largely countries of immigrants. But one of the defining differences is that while the United States is a melting pot of cultures to assimilate to become American, Canada prides itself not only on accepting the cultural differences, but indeed on celebrating the diversity of the cultures of individuals that inhabit our great country. Whereas some countries fear losing their cultural identity with immigration, Canadian culture views that as enhancing our identity. Whether that's the large population of Persian, Ismaili, or Chinese populations on the North Shore, the sizable Sikh population in Squamish, the many Aussie residents in Whistler, and the 4 First Nations throughout our region. We're a very diverse community. And I've seen this in practice over the last couple of years. With the horrific findings at residential schools last year, Canada Day celebrations were canceled, and instead thousands gathered that day to march in support of the Sechelt Nation in Sechelt. It shows when many Canadians of Iranian descent perished with the downing of Ukrainian Airlines Flight 752 barely 2 years ago, and it was the synagogue that hosted the memorial. But it's important that we continue to cultivate multiculturalism in our community so that we better understand and appreciate our cultural mosaic. And it's organizations like the Whistler Multicultural Society and Welcome Center and the many partners and organizers of this event that are important parts of that work. But I'm really excited to hear how our panelists and the many leaders assembled today will share their thoughts on multiculturalism. But I want to thank you again for having me today to be part of your discussion.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate those words. So multiculturalism, what is it and why are we talking about it? Multiculturalism is when we accept and encourage many cultures to thrive together. It can have really great outcomes and it discourages hate, racism, and discrimination. 2021 marked the 50th anniversary of Canada's multiculturalism policy, which was the first of its kind in the world. Canada is really unique because by law, we all have the right to preserve, enhance, and share our cultural heritage. And we also need to respect each other's right to do the same. So this event today is about exploring multiculturalism in the Sea to Sky and Sunshine Coast region and what it means for our communities. Before we move to the panel, we'd like to share a really short video with you all. We asked the same two questions that we're about to talk about today to some local immigrants and newcomers living in the Sea to Sky and Sunshine Coast. Here's what they said.
My whole life is about multiculturalism.
I'm outside of my comfort or my home, so I pretty much have to get along with everybody. People kind of have to get along with me as well.
I see that every day in my life, actually, I have contact with different culture.
Most of the folks I come across in Whistler are actually originally from outside of Canada.
By having friends and co-workers from different parts of the world.
It's meeting people from other country is making my life unique and rich.
Every person brings something different from their background.
I'm learning so many things from different countries and different culture.
It's like an opening to another world.
That just gave me a better perspective to lives outside my own bubble.
I learned a lot about other cultures.
Different kind of art, history, music.
Different languages, different religions, different everything.
I like to take good things from every culture and practice that.
It was really good for me to grow personal and also to keep mine.
Feels comfortable to being here because I don't have to change my faith and who I am.
Yeah, I love just being me and just doing what I want to do.
The lack of it made a huge difference in my life. Have access to different cultures, to different histories, backgrounds, and this diversity that brings a sense of a new community was so essential to me that made me move from Northern Ontario to BC, and that is something that I found here.
It feels like I'm not alone.
I don't feel that strange. I don't feel so different from everybody else because everybody is kind of different. My difference is not emphasized.
That is the standard in Canada, and so that is something that I think all communities should strive for.
We need to live in harmony all together.
To dispel negative stereotype about different group.
Learning about this culture which you only heard about before, it's not that scary anymore.
We all share something, and it's that we are all human beings.
Maybe we cook different, or we practice another religion, or we dress in a different ways. At the end, we have more similarities.
When we meeting like immigrants, we think we are helping them, but also same time they are helping us.
New talents might be discovered, new ways of learning can be shared.
People see life in a different way. And that's something very valuable when you can understand different perspectives.
Different angles of looking at the maybe same thing, giving that full picture.
I think they need to put more effort in welcome the immigrants.
And respecting the differences too, and doing our homework as individuals to go always non-stop learn about others.
We can build a trust, we can build respect and understanding about any other culture.
There is no better than having a multicultural society.
Multiculturalism is treasure for our country, I believe.
Okay, and now to our panel. Please let me introduce Zhao Yao Xie, otherwise known by her English name, Joyce. Joyce grew up in China and lived in Japan for 10 years, where she learned about art and design. She moved to Gibson's in 2015 with her husband and kids, where they now run a business. She speaks a number of languages, including Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, and English. Habib Lee. Habib is from West Africa, Senegal, and Mauritania, and impressively, he speaks 6 languages. He lives in Squamish and is a Capilano University faculty member, program manager, English instructor in the Department of Community Development and Outreach. Geraldine Guilfoyle moved to Canada in the 1980s with her husband and young family. She's been a board member with the Squamish Multi-Faith Association since its incorporation, and it is the role of religion in multiculturalism that she wants to address today, as she believes that religion is vital in making the Canadian mosaic work and in building inclusive communities. Geraldine is a member of the Baha'i faith. From Whistler, I'd like to welcome Jack Crumpton. Jack is the mayor of Whistler, and he's passionate about Whistler and Whistlerites. His family has been a part of Whistler from before he was born, and he says that it is the highest privilege of his life to serve as mayor. Christine Baker has been a manager of the Squamish Nation's Valley operations for 10 years. She was born on Alert Bay on Vancouver Island, but grew up in Squamish, which was a resource town where her dad was a logger and fisher, while her mother stayed at home. Christine is a mother of 4, grandmother of 3, is recognized as a first-generation survivor of Indian residential school, and her father and grandparents all went to Indian residential schools. And lastly, Faisal Roji. Faisal is the head of international education for the Sea to Sky School District. He brings years of experience, achievements, and several awards from his long career in education. So we'll move on to our first question for the panel. Panel, how does multiculturalism impact your life and your community? Joyce, would you like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joyce, and thank you for having me today. I'm a little bit nervous because that's my first time speak in public. So yeah, a little bit nervous. Yeah, as you know, when I before came to Canada, I studied and work in Japan about 10 years. So I can speak Japanese, Mandarin, Cantonese, and now I just learning English. But at the very beginning, when I came here, I couldn't speak too much English, just a word. But when I moved here with my family, and I got a lot of friends from other countries, from like Japanese friend, Chinese friend, Indonesian friend, Malaysian friend, or Korean friends, and they help us a lot. Yes, and I just feeling that time I cannot speak English too much, so I almost use Japanese and Mandarin, Cantonese to live on the coast. But that's not enough for me because this community mostly speak English. So I just thinking I trying to learn English. But when I trying to learn English, I got pregnant and I have a second child in Seychelles. She was born in Seychelles. And after that, I just almost stay at home for long time. And I couldn't get out too much because I need to take care of my kids. I have a lot of homework at home. But I also go to like Strong Star, the community Strong Stars, to meet some moms and make friends there and trying to learn English and getting better. And I went to library, meet some friends, can speak Japanese or Mandarin, and we exchange English. So that's the fun part for me in the life, because I'm not too much friends on the coast. And when I feeling better, but after that, the COVID just came and just destroyed my life. And I very upset and I cannot go out anymore. At that time, like a lot of friends just helped me to get out and talk to me, and like my English tutor, my local friends, they just helped me a lot. So now I just trying to respect my community, to help maybe some mothers group like me is new immigration, couldn't speak too much English, or couldn't drive or something like that. They cannot connect with communities. That's I trying to be a middleman. I'm not sure. Yes, that's my thinking. That's my experience on the coast. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thanks for sharing that. Habib, would you like to go next?
Hello, everybody. Thank you. And thank you for having me in this wonderful panel, wonderful people. And thanks, Donna, for the prayers. And I myself, I acknowledge that I'm joining the meeting from Squamish, which is the unceded territory of the Squamish nations. So what's the question? Sorry.
Sorry, I'll repeat. How does multiculturalism impact your life and your community?
Thank you. It's just like a lot of things to talk about when it comes to multiculturalism. That's why I'd like to tailor it down to suit the timing too. But I really can go all the night talking about it because I'm so passionate about it, and the entire my life is about multiculturalism. My name is Habib Lee. I'm from West Africa, Mauritania, Senegal. And I grew up in Mauritania, and that's where I was first exposed to multi-cultures, like people from different ethnic groups and different cultures. And at the early age, I had to go to Arabic school, and I was born Fulani, like it's very total different ethnic groups. And it was very intimidating, and it was tough, and I had like really tough first years to just understand what was going on, just growing as a Fulani kid and just being in between Arab kids. So that was my first experience with multiculturalism. And then I had to learn the language to be able to connect to the kids and just be able to belong, if we would want to say, or just integrate without feeling any difference. I don't know if I'm making sense here or not, but that's how it feels for your first encounter into some other cultures that aren't yours, that aren't the cultures that you grew up around, because it would be always like new thing to you and new experience. Then you have to be walked through it, either through you learning and them accepting you among them, and then just sharing everything that they do in their culture. So in Africa, we get to experience that a lot because each country has at least 4 different ethnic groups that are active, and they have all their culture that they carry with them since the ancestors up down to now. And plus the colonial culture too. So it's like a lot of different complex of cultures. So we travel, come down here, and then we have all this modern culture. So it means for me, it's always learning and just being into a new environment where I had to learn how to walk again. But once I get to walk, I feel enlightened.
Thank you, Habib.
Yeah, that's
got
my
quite a-
introduction. Until we go further, maybe we can elaborate a lot about it.
Yeah, sure. All right, maybe I'll introduce or invite Geraldine. How does multiculturalism impact your life, Geraldine, and your community?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd just like to express my appreciation for being invited to be part of the panel, and recognize with gratitude that I'm living in Squamish on the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. For me, it's getting to know my human family and working side by side to build a caring and inclusive community. Now, I've had many opportunities and different ways in which I can participate in this, but what I would like to share today is really look at it from with a focus on the role interfaith collaboration has played. So for multiculturalism to work, it cannot just be a political policy. It needs to be a community endeavor. And from my perspective as a Baha'i and a director of Squamish Multi-Faith Association, I really believe that interfaith work and collaboration has a vital role in this community building endeavor. And when we think about it, religious groups are part of civil society, and faith plays a role in so many ways in our customs, cultural practices, food, dress, festivals, music, even architecture. And yet, very often in Canada, one's religious identity is increasingly perceived as a private matter, a private affair. However, in interfaith settings, we have an opportunity to come together in more of a public fora where we are, encouraged to be able to express our religious beliefs and how they play a role in our lives. So multi-faith organizations such as the Squamish Multi-Faith Association, and I'm delighted to see that, of course, it was opened by Cisolia, who is on our board, and I see that Reverend Karen Millard and Sister Josephine are on the call here today. So I'm hoping they'll be able to participate during the interaction later on. But multi-faith associations, they can offer a space to bridge religious diversity, to promote understanding, fellowship, and shared service through practice of the Golden Rule. And they provide a space for those missing voices of wisdom and spiritual guidance that can help solve problems and create right relations. Just to use a little Gaelic phrase, Níl nárt go cur le céile, which means there is no strength until we come together. And I thought the best way I've got to really just demonstrate how I see working together can create such richness is to show a very short slide show, which will only take about 30 seconds. And it's demonstrating some of the work of Squamish Multi-Faith Association. So I'm going to try and screen share now. And okay. I hope we can see this.
I have to leave, Geraldine, sorry.
Okay, Donna. Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm hoping tomorrow I can watch you guys.
Right, so here's the slide presentation. It's very quick, but what does it mean? What does it look like? It's shared service and fellowship. And the Multicultural Day that Donna referred to at Totem Hall is really a beautiful example of that, which has been hosted for many years by the Squamish Valley Elders in collaboration with various faith groups. And that's Cecilia and Gwen Harry and Mr. Gita from the Sikh community. It is a welcoming community. That's what it's about. It's about sharing food, and we see the Sikh Society in Squamish are major contributors to that part of the endeavour. It's sharing gifts. It's sharing cultural dances. And that, by the way, is Sister Josephine in the middle there. It's working together to make things work. This is Reverend Cameron from the Anglican Church. It's meeting new people from around the world. These are all students, international students from Quest University. This is a youth from Squamish, a recent immigrant from Syria. She's not a university student, but she was enjoying the university students. It's multi-generational. It's having children be involved and share their gifts as well. The whole idea of this Multicultural Day is celebrating unity and diversity. It's sharing the work of paddling. This was taken during the 150th celebration of Canada Day, where there was a joint group under Soacia actually that brought this wonderful canoe, Hakili Monu, from the Squamish town site over to the Squamish Nation village. It's dancing together, but it's also acknowledging wrongs. And working together on a path of reconciliation. This is a blanket exercise that was done there. It's supporting each other's initiatives and endeavours. This was at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, putting care packages together. It's getting the whole community involved. And this is BC Thanksgiving Food Drive, which is a collaboration between Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Multi-Faith Association, and the community, our local food bank. But it includes participation from all of the community, youth delivering flyers, collecting food, sorting food. And the Sikh temple provide a specific collection that they also do. It's presentations on various topics. It's grieving together when we hear of terrible wrongs. It's a place to ask questions. We had a Religion and Squamish series in June virtually. I just would like to finish with a quote where the diversity of the diversity in the human family should be the cause of love, as it is in music where many different notes blend together in making a perfect chord. It's from Abdul Baha. So I say, let's make some more music together. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine, for sharing those really lovely photos of the rich multicultural community in Squamish. A lot of the things you said echo some of the other panel members' answers. And I thought maybe perhaps Christine would like to go next. That might be a good segue to Christine.
Good evening. Tlachtlaquot's my ancestral name. I'm from the Squamish Nation. I hold two cultures, Squamish and the Kwakwaka'wakw, where my mother came from, Vancouver Island. How does multicultural impact my life? It's impacted my life right through, I do believe, from my childhood. Growing up in Squamish, we had to learn a little bit about the diverse in Squamish, and we're going back a few years. Not so much as a child, but as I grew up and I started working, I moved to North Van for a bit, and I was involved in the employment and training. And I got to work with a lot of multicultural groups through the Immigrant Service Society, ISS of BC. And it was very interesting because I learned about becoming a new Canadian and how difficult it was, you know, especially if they're, you know, have the accreditation as a doctor or, you know, those kind of things. And I actually, we actually did a movement. We were drumming and singing downtown Vancouver, and we were supporting the women who were nurses and doctors, and I got to really meet quite a strong group from that society. And they basically sat me down and said, you know, it's wonderful that you're here, Christine, to support us, but we want to understand you and your struggles, why you are struggling with your employment and training folk. And it all started, I remember in employment, there was this word called visible minority. And it's through the Employment Equity Act, I think it was called. Anyway, it was very confusing at the time, and visible minority is pretty much saying you're a visible minority if you're not a white person. And well, that was really confusing for me as a First Nations woman. So I remember going to the government. I sat on a table with the provincial government and talked to them about the words. You know, how can you use these words? I mean, you need to understand, it wasn't so long ago in the 80s, we were still called Indians, you know, Canadian Indians. And that's what they called us for many, many years. I have an Indian status card. And that's a whole new story. But today I'd like to, you know, say we welcome multiculturalism, but we also would like to invite them to learn about us as First Nations, Indigenous, Aboriginal, Native, Indian people. You know, we've got a lot of different names, and it's confusing, I do believe, as a new Canadian. They don't understand why we change every 5 or 10 years. Today we're Indigenous. The government's calling us Indigenous. 5 years ago, I think we were Aboriginal. 10 years ago, we were First Nations. And 20 years ago, we were Indians. So I've actually sat down with a lot of people from different countries. And I've always said, you know, I'm always learning about the multicultural people in this community. But as a First Nations woman, to be completely trying to learn what is going on, when we talk about being inclusive and understanding, you as new Canadians really need to understand us as a people as well, because we've gone to a lot with, you know, the Indian Act. Women were, there was a lot of racial stuff with us women who married outside the community. there was a lot of things that happened. And I think understanding us, we can understand what you're going through. And you talk about religion. I do have a religion, and it's my longhouse. I've learned in the longhouse what it is to be Squamish and Kwakwaka'wakw. You know, my granddaughter, she had a ceremony when she did the change of life when she was 16. We do ceremonies when a baby is born in the longhouse. And, you know, the change of life's all different aspects of your life. You're in the longhouse. You get names, you receive names, you get married. When somebody passes, you wait for a few years and then you hold an honoring ceremony. You honor them, you honor their life. And I did that with my late brother, my family. So in terms of the new Canadians, I say welcome. Welcome to Canada. And don't feel so bad. Everybody's suffering with this COVID. I'm telling you, I am still not used to this Zoom stuff. You know, it's difficult for me, you know, trying to get on board, getting frustrated with this new technology. So don't feel bad, Joyce. You're doing well. And all you have to do is open your heart and learn a lot, learn about who we are. And I welcome the new people, the new cultures, the different backgrounds. I love that stuff. And it's a place where, you know, you as newcomers are learning, but you also need to learn about, you know, us as a people. I keep saying that. I know with the work that the welcoming and the multi-faith, you know, they've come to the Totem Hall, you know, Sisolia and Elder Gwen, Ma Chesha have been involved in the multi-faith groups. And, you know, some of our people really want to understand. I think we did some multicultural gatherings a few years ago at the OCM Park, where I think it was in the fall time. And it was very successful. A lot of people, and it was wonderful. I got to meet a lot of new different people. So I welcome that. And, you know, if you want any more information, one of the things that I do is I do the Indian Residential School survivor stories through the Squamish Public Library. We did that. We do that up at the Totem Hall. You know, when we had when they discovered the bodies, the children's bodies, we had to do a ceremony because a lot of our elders responded to that, and it just took them back to residential school. So we're trying to, you know, support our elders and support our community, but also we want to educate you and for you to, you know, educate us. And I think it's important. So I don't know what else to say, but I'm really glad, you know, we had an opportunity to speak. And I'm, you know, always willing to try to understand what's going on. And I'm sad to say that I can only speak English. I cannot speak my language. I learned when I was very young, around 8 years old, but my family, I had nobody to talk to. My parents were English. My family was English. So I lost my language. But now, you know, this nation is bringing everybody back to learn our language and learn our culture. So we're on the path to, you know, getting more people to learn about our language. So anyway, that's me. Welcome to all of you, OCM, all my relations.
Thank you so much, Christine. Really appreciate you sharing that. And as a newcomer, I really appreciate the welcome. Shall we move up the Sea to Sky corridor up to Whistler? Jack, how does multiculturalism impact you, your life, and your community?
Thanks, Beck. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm calling in from the Squamish word is Squeaqua, and in English and in Lilwat it is Huitama, Whistler. And I'm grateful to be here with you tonight. I think for me, multiculturalism informs what I believe, what I understand to be Canadian. As a 12-year-old at Dorothea Walker Elementary School, I remember my teacher talking to us about the multicultural mosaic and sort of describing this beautiful concept that we all bring our cultures to the table and share them with each other. And that's what makes us Canadian. And the multicultural mosaic has kind of been in my head since. And Kelowna, where I grew up, is a very homogenous place. So I kind of wondered, I don't see that on a day-to-day basis. I don't see that version of being Canadian. But I've thought about it my whole life, this concept of the multicultural mosaic. Victoria Hayward was a Bermudan-born journalist and travel writer in the early 1900s, and she traveled around Canada, and she actually coined the phrase multicultural mosaic. And I just want to read what she wrote in the early 1920s. She said, "New Canadians representing many places and widely separated sections of old Europe have contributed to the prairie provinces a variety in the way of church architecture, cupolas and domes distinctly Eastern, almost Turkish, startle one above the tops of Manitoba maples or the bush of the riverbanks. These architectural figures of the landscape, apart altogether of their religious significance, are centers where, crossing the threshold on Sundays, one has the opportunity of hearing Swedish music or the rich, deep chanting of the Russian responses, and of viewing at close hand the artistry that goes to make up the interior appointments of these churches transplanted from the east to the west. It is indeed a mosaic of vast dimensions and great breadth, essayed of the prairie." And I think that's a great description of us at our best. For me, what the multiculturalism has really started to mean for my family now that I have kids is this acknowledgement of being on Lilwat and Squamish territory. And that has made that multicultural mosaic so much richer, I think, for me. I've seen that vision that was described to me as a young boy in elementary school, but it's gained so much depth, understanding and acknowledging our shared history, those dark, dark, dark spaces, but also the brightness that the Lilwat and the Squamish have brought by welcoming us here as they have. So I think for me, it informs what it means to be Canadian. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. Faisal, last but not least, from the Sea to Sky School District.
Thank you very much. Just want to thank the Honorable Patrick Wheeler for his introduction. I want to touch on that a little bit of what he said. I also want to thank the spiritual welcome we received from our traditional Aboriginal communities. Thank you guys for doing that. One of the things that Patrick touched on, which kind of comes to my light, two things he said. One is about our neighbors to the south. And I landed here as a refugee, as Patrick probably, he mentioned the Ismaili community, which I am from. And we landed here as refugees at a very early age, but not out of choice, out of necessity. So we just landed in the right place, thankfully. And I look at, the Canadian ethic and the guidance we've received as a community and the thoughtfulness around multiculturalism. And he touched on this notion that we're not a melting pot. And there's many different words that we use, whether it be mosaic. I kind of call it a confederation of cultures, because being Canadian is this notion that we've all come together and there's no cultural homogeneity between any of us. And even within my own faith as an Ismaili Muslim, we came here in the 70s, and we came as an East African population, and in the 80s, an Indian population moved in the 90s, an Afghanistan population moved in the 2000s, we're having a Tajik population. In my own somewhat homogeneous Ismaili community is this blunder, like this whole massive heterogeneity, which is really reflective of a Canadian culture in a sense. So I'm not sure how it all worked together and how it worked for our community, but there's no question that as an Ismaili Muslim in Canada and the ethics that we hold as a community, it's reflected in our Canadian community. Now, what I've realized is that Canada might be the front runner in pluralism and multiculturalism, but this is hard. This is a complicated experiment. And I think to myself, there are easier ways when you have a homogeneous society to come together and to have, even from an education perspective, teaching a class of all the same people is much easier than teaching a class of different people. But everything worthwhile is hard. And I think in the long term, when we look at Canadian society and the strength that we have and the success we have, it's really because we bring these differences together and have to work harder than some communities at making it work. But we've seen in the last few years, the dangers of isolationism, the dangers of populism, the things that can happen as a result of this kind of uni-focused approach. And I'm thankful for where we landed. I'm thankful for the outlook. I know it's harder to kind of do than having a uni-focused community all in the same direction, but I know the outcomes are greater. So I think about all that in the context of multiculturalism. And my role in the school district, what I think my role is, because I've self-defined myself, Christine talked about this importance, she just spoke about this importance of reciprocal learning. So one of my roles is and to be blunt with you, the Sea to Sky School District is probably more homogeneous than Surrey or even North Van or many communities in British Columbia. But my role is, how do I infuse this global mindedness, this whole global awareness into a community? And we have many different facets of the community, but how do I have that reciprocal learning so that, one, the communities that come here learn about the value we have around multiculturalism, and two, they go back to their country saying, this is good. This thing that Canada is doing, it's a good thing. I'm not saying that we are the answer to all things, and I'm going to harken on one point that I always think about, and especially in regards to Aboriginal communities. And if I was to look at a model of really putting Aboriginal communities up here as the founding populations, I look at Australia and the Maoris. If you're a Maori, you're proud. People wear shirts saying, I know the Maoris, I am a Maori. And I kind of think that's a great northern light for us to aspire to in terms of how much we respect our founding peoples in this community. So yes, we have work to do. Do we have an ethic that's unique and super important? Like no other. But it's hard, it's worthwhile. We landed here for a reason, and everything that I've done in my life has been this assimilation of cultures. So that's kind of how it's played out in my role. So thank you guys for speaking. Habib, Jambo, Habibi. and I can see some of my homestay parents on the line as well. So it's good to see you, Diana. I can see you on the line. So it's great to see everybody, and that's just my perspective.
And thank you for sharing your perspective, Faisal. I think you may have touched on the next question, but you can jump into it a bit deeper soon. I just also want to remind all of the audience, if you have any questions for the panel, whether it's all of them or any specifically, please put your questions in the chat and we'll have an opportunity to ask them soon. Juliana, would you like to move to the second question?
Okay, thanks. Okay, now we are going to the second question for the session today. Panel members, why do we need to keep working towards a welcoming and inclusive multicultural environment in the Citrus Sky and Sunshine Coast region? Who would like to start? Geraldine, would you like to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So why do we need to keep working hard at it? Well, for one, it's not a once-off event. It's a journey. It takes practice. It can be hard work because the mosaic is continually evolving. It's a bit like that choir. There are new pieces to be learned. It's not static. I mean, if we think about Squamish alone, and it's wonderful to have the Welcome Centre here at Squamish and the opportunities and the gathering points that they provide for newcomers and for members of the community to come and meet newcomers. I think this is so important. But like in Squamish 5 years ago, there were no families from Syria, for instance. And now we have at least 5 that are adding beautifully, you know, to our rich life here. But it's a new piece to be learned. So there are these new voices entering at different times, and everybody wants to contribute. But to be able to contribute, we need opportunities. I'm very aware that when I came to this country, I came with privilege. I could speak English. My educational qualifications were recognized. I didn't have to go back and retrain. And I was a member of what many people view as the dominant society. And so, you know, we were given passes in many ways. We didn't have to prove ourselves in the way that's, you know, maybe many other newcomers do. So I guess, so some ideas that I think about in terms of this practice and this work that we need to continue. And I think, you know, faith and service go hand in hand, and religious groups are natural communities of support. They have a long history. They're part of the fabric of our communities, and I think they can really help contribute to support for newcomers, and in fact do. You know, I think if we can start early and young, celebrating diversity and learning from each other. I would love to see our schools, not in some kind of a systematic way necessarily, but to include some community-based learning in regards to the different, and I'm just focusing on religion right now, but it could be other parts of the multicultural mosaic, but in terms of learning about religions in their own community, it could be as simple as acknowledging and learning about religious festivals being celebrated in their communities, such as Hanukkah, Diwali, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Nowruz, and there are beautiful multi-faith calendars available to help make this possible. I'd love to see opportunities for young people to become involved in community building, where there are lots of opportunities for them to engage in working together and helping with newcomers. And I know many of them do, but you know, we can always have more. Interfaith gatherings on social themes. I mean, we have once a year we have World Day of Prayer, which is always on a social theme, but we could certainly have more of them. So I think the work really involves developing a culture of kindness, of encouragement, of service, and really, above all, of just learning about each other. And I know there are difficulties and challenges, and I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think together we can learn from each other and make it work and make it even stronger and better. Thanks.
Thanks, Geraldine. Jack, would you like to share your thoughts?
I was having a hard time finding my unmute button. I think my answer to the question is because it's critical to the success of our communities and the success of our families. And it's critical to having as whole and resilient a community as we can possibly have. I think we're better for those connections and ensuring that people feel welcome. There's a lot of reasons to feel dislocated. I think that what we spoke about earlier about being in our homes, being away from other people, has been extremely difficult for all of us. And I believe that multiculturalism is a bit of a response to that. It says something important about who we are as human beings. We want to be together. We want to break down barriers. We want to be more whole as individuals so that we can be more whole as communities. So I think it's just about humanity and people and better communities, the kind of places that are more interesting, that are more exciting, that are more dynamic, that are just a little bit more of what my grade 5 teacher told me about.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Jack. Who would like to be next? Joyce?
Yes. I'm so happy to everybody likes my talk. Thank you, Christy, to let me know and yes, support me. I will trying to learn more about all kinds of things in the communities, and I feeling I'm lucky I learn English now because I can talk my thinking and experience to share to my everyone. Yeah, 10 years ago, I was so nervous and I'm not feeling comfortable to learn English because I think I'm over 30. I cannot learn more language because my brain have 5 languages already. So maybe I cannot learn more. But now I just thinking, I trying to let my friends know if you learn English, you have a lot of, you will open your mind and open your life. Like today is very good experience for me. And I know Sunshine Coast or Squamish on Sea to Sky communities, they had a lot of great programs. I know that. But the other thing is like our part, like the new immigration parts, how let them out. That's the most important part. Yes, we have a lot of event paper outside or somewhere, and we can get a lot of information everywhere. But why they don't want to come, or what reason they cannot come? That's, I think we need to figure it out. And I like to be a pipe to connect them to, that's why today I here, because I want to let everybody know we need help, and I trying to be a voice for you and know we want to know about here and want open my heart to about everything in Canada. So I just thinking how we can do, like, just from the small things to trying to connect. I like today, this event, I invite over 10 friends come over, my very close friends, to invite it to see this event, to let them know, yeah, communities very care about us. So just open and just trying to go outside, not just stay home. Enough, 2 years is enough, very enough for everyone. So trying to get out and trying to see more. And if like not comfortable like language or moving, yeah, I can help. I can help everybody to, not everybody, but I trying to use my time to help more friends to come out or do translations, use my limit English to translations or yeah, Japanese or Cantonese or Mandarin, whatever. And also use my design skills. Yeah, I'm a designer, so I trying to use my work to help between communities and immigration. Yeah, newcomer is my new word. Yes, newcomer. Yeah, that's my thinking. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce, for sharing your thoughts. Faisal, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'll be short because I think I said too much at the beginning. But I think about Derek Bach, who was the president of Harvard, and he said, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And I love that that little saying, because as we move towards inclusive societies and learning about one another, the benefits far outweigh the kind of uni-level simple-mindedness that ignorance can bring. So the goal of multiculturalism and education is kind of emboldened with one another, intertwined with one another. We can't be learning, growing communities if we don't think about multiculturalism. So it's all uniquely entwined for me in a really positive way. So that's my role in the school district, and really that's my belief in life. Values can be kind of brought together, and that's the goal. So where we run into problems is often around values and around cultural fissions, but we can come together around the bigger stuff. So I think it's a great goal. It's a great Canadian ethic, and it's a great goal for the Sea to Sky community.
Thanks, Faisal. Next, Christine.
I think I too said too much. I think a few colleagues basically hit the nail on the head there around educating. We need to educate our community. You know, there's the ugly word called prejudice, you know, and it's still strong. I've always said to my children, you know, it's still out there and it's strong, very strong, you know, prejudice against us as a people. And I'm only talking about us First Nations. So there's a lot of educating that needs to be done. And part of it is to understand the new Canadians that are coming to the lands and how important they are and what they're doing, and, you know, the work and the living and, you know, being part of a community as a whole. And I think it's important, really important. And I learn myself. I'm always learning, like I said. And I just go back to, you know, when I was teaching my children, you know, yes, you are First Nations, but you need to learn about other people and no judging. And if you have any questions, just come out and ask, no judging. And so I think it's important that we do lower the tensions in the school, you know, and that's where our children in the school system are learning about who they are as a people. They're learning. I'm learning. You know, I continually learning, you know, my history. And because everything was taken away from us, I had to relearn our culture and what does that mean to my family. And so there's a lot of learning. So I think, you know, I feel like, you know, the new Canadians, they've got a lot of learning to do, but you know what? So do we. And so if we learn together, I think we'll accomplish something. And I think it's important that we understand, you know, what it is to be a multicultural society, because we are, and it's not going to go away. So, OCM, thank you.
Thanks, Christine. So now I would like to introduce Habib. Habib, can you please?
Thank you very much. And I believe the panel has really said everything that needed to be said about multiculturalism. And I appreciate the invite from Christine to come down and learn about the First Nation culture. So I've been myself doing it since I was in Alberta. They have this annual gathering for Indigenous in Alberta, where they meet, and they call it Spirit Seekers. So you get to know all the tribes from different regions in Alberta. But that was for Alberta. I'm not sure about BC, how they do that, but I'm in search of how to connect with Squamish and just be able to learn and invite them over to share their culture with our programs and projects we have for the community. That's my up top goal in my program. So if I get an invite or an openness to the Squamish Nation, that would be great for me and for the participants of my program as well. So for the Sea to Sky, why it is important to keep that multiculturalism going? Yeah, it's because like a lot of people would love to come by here just because of the nature of the Sea to Sky and how beautiful it is. And as like part of Canada, it's just so important to work progressively to have that multiculturalism translated, because we already have it there. And as Faisal implied, like some country, they go short ways. Who is the majority? So let's put them the head. They lead the culture, they lead everything, and everybody else is denied and excluded. Yes, it is easy to do that because it works and it worked, but again, it would work against other cultures and against other tribes, ethnics, and everything that they believe and they feel, they identify themselves. So this is maybe one of the reasons we have refugees, immigrants to Canada, because it's one of the most welcoming countries when it comes to multiculturalism. But still, we always need more because we always will have more people from various, if not different, background. So that's very important to keep in mind, that it's not just us who are already here and feel more comfortable in the area, but we need to make it again comfortable for others who haven't even yet born, because we've seen through history, we experience uncomfortable situations just because others made it uncomfortable. So whatever we make now, it's what's gonna be tomorrow for the generation. So now we're doing this, and this is a great initiative that I salute all of us here together and trying to figuring out how we make our communities better places for us and for our upcoming generations and whoever coming visitors and immigrants. So yeah, it's important to keep the conversation going, to keep the talk, discussions, and just allow that safe space where people can express and just be themselves. And that's all about culture, is to be allowed to be yourself, to be expressive without feeling intimidated or burdened or challenged, So yeah, I feel so lucky and fortunate to be here. And I don't think I landed here by default, but I also feel glad that I meet people who share the same feeling, that they feel welcomed. And they also not just feel welcome, but they feel appreciated and allowed to welcome. Like sometimes you just be welcomed, but you're not allowed to welcome others. But in Canada, you're welcome, and you're, again, given a space to welcome others and given means to make it welcoming too. So let's just all work on our sides. First, make ourselves available and just resourceful. As Christine mentioned, we would love to learn from the First Nations because they were here first and they had a lot of cultures. And also they would want to know who we are and why we are here and what we're doing in their land. So it's up to us to approach them and just show them who we are, that we're not here to take the land, that we're here to work all together and just have our culture grow and be meaningful and reflect who we are. Yeah, so thank you for including me in this panel. And I look forward to meeting you all and seeing you all happy as you are now.
Thank you so much, Habib. Any panel member would like to add something? Okay, so we still have 10 minutes and we're looking here that we don't have any questions from the audience. We would like to invite not only the panel members, but now we would like to invite the audience. If there's anyone here that would like to speak and to share something, to share about multiculturalism, what does multiculturalism means for you? We would like to hear some more experience and perspectives. Anyone would like to share? Yes, Judy, please.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. I had to come in late on it, but it's just been wonderful. I live in Gibsons on the Sunshine Coast. I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a family where I was able to see my parents, the way that they treated other people. And, you know, that was just a fortunate experience. I worked for many years as a speech language pathologist for Vancouver School Board, and certainly worked in classrooms where 90% of children spoke languages other than English. And, you know, one thing I observed at the time, it always was interesting to me that when children were brought to school-based team with learning needs, the children who were learning English as an additional language, it was brought as, it seemed more of a concern, of an issue. And yet people put such a high value on getting into French immersion and having their children learn French as an additional language. And I always found it just interesting how there seemed to be a lack of value. You know, there would be, if a child was having difficulty in school but was attending cultural classes after school, there would be people who would make comments of, well, they should be learning English. And it just always, you know, I think in my own way and with the people I worked with, we tried to make small changes, but it was interesting to see that. The second question, sort of, that I had put to Geraldine, you know, it's an interesting situation. I come from a Jewish background, and as a Jewish person, and I grew up in a non-Jewish situation, and so I grew up with Christmas around me, but it was quite clear for me, Jewish is not my celebration. I can celebrate with other people, but it's not something that I celebrate. In my observations for 35 years of working in quite a multicultural population, I find it, I guess, challenging that Christmas is often presented to new Canadians that this is a Canadian holiday. I know that it's a holiday, that it is a stat holiday, but I always find it a dilemma. And it's just an interesting thing for people to ponder on, because I know when I try to explain it to some people, I find people are not listening to my lived experience, but are just saying to me, Christmas is for everyone. And I say, I can celebrate it with others, but it's not my holiday. So those were just comments that I had.
Thank you so much, George, to share your thoughts and your perspective. Thank you. Yeah, Sharon, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation for Joyce, the foreign language speaking girl. My name is Sharon. I'm from mainland China. This is first time for me to attend this kind of gathering by means of Zoom. At the beginning, I didn't know what it would be, so I just sit here to give Joyce a support. So I wrote my name there, Sharon, Joyce's friend. Right. And then bit by bit, I realized, oh my, I have never imagined we immigrants are so welcome in this country and through the what you talk about. And friends ask me, are you in Vancouver or in anywhere else in Canada? And what's that question about? Are you safe enough? Anyone want to destroy your house? Things like this, because of the bilateral relationship between China and Canada is not that good. And I told them I sometimes live in Surrey, now I am. And then sometimes I live in Seychelles. I said, I want to tell you, where did you get this information from? I feel much safer than anywhere else. So when in Seychelles, I live at the waterfront apartment. So when we see each other and the local people, and then we have our neighbors in First Nation group of people. So we all smile to each other and then say hello to each other. They don't really believe that. And then the other thing I wanna say about multiculturalism, I think it depends on the people from all over the world. If you represent your own country in a good image, no one would look down upon you. Even though you are from local, but you don't behave yourself, you look like a foreigner. That's my point of view. So people from all over the world bring the best things with us, share the food and the culture. By the way, I want to share with you about our culture. See, my husband, his brother-in-law got sick and was in chemo. I said, let's go and visit him. He said, no. I said, why not? He said, in China, when someone is sick, we'll rush and run to their place with the food, anything we can bring with us. And then we offer all kinds of help. But he told me, no, local people, and even my husband is from the Middle East, and then we don't visit the sick people when they are very sick. That's the culture difference. And a lot of people say, why Chinese people, they don't stay in line when we queue somewhere. I say, you don't know about our culture? Our population is so big. If we keep 3 meters away, and then we can never reach anywhere. So that is the background we are from. And then here in Canada, you don't have to be in a hurry or stay too close to each other. You won't miss it, no matter how long the line is. And then you will get on the bus, you will have a seat. So other things I find different. My husband invited his sister from Edmonton and to have dim sum. And I ordered all kinds of dim sum food as a hostess. And he was annoyed with me. Why not? My family doesn't have the right to order their food. I said, it's our invitation. We invite them, and this is Chinese food, Chinese dim sum. And then we order the most expensive and the best we know. So that is the difference. It doesn't mean anything wrong, but when we get along more with each other, we understand lots of things, problems, locally or internationally, or in the family, are caused by miscommunication or misunderstanding, either because of the culture shocks or because of language. Yeah, and when we say we don't do something until something, and then the new immigrants who didn't really learn a lot English, they think it is not positive, it's negative. They say, oh, I won't come until 12. Oh, you're not coming, I understand. So here I want to invite you guys to read something about the cultures, different cultures. So the cultures between Taiwan and mainland China is different. The cultures between Macau and mainland different. And from Hong Kong, even in southern part of China, Guangzhou and Sichuan area, I don't understand their language. It's for me is another language. So why I say Joyce can speak 4 languages, she speaks Cantonese. For me, Cantonese is like Japanese. Even people from Shanghai, when they open their mouths, I think they are Japanese or they are from somewhere else when I was little. So I just want to share with you, when you see Chinese people talk very, very loudly, it means we have a very big audience. If we don't talk loudly, no one would pay any attention to us. If Chinese don't queue in line, don't think they are impolite, not educated, because our population is too big. We cannot wait. All right. When we are being served, and then the shop assistant is very patient, and then but in China you have to squeeze in crosstalk. I'm urgent. Okay, sorry, I'm carried myself away. Thank you very much, and happy Chinese New Year. Can I continue? I should stop. I see someone raise the hand.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Happy Chinese New Year to you too. We do actually have one question from the panel, but I am aware that it's 7 o'clock already. But maybe I'll quickly ask the panel this question and ask them to give a very brief answer, maybe 10, 20 seconds at most. How will you use the information shared today in your daily life? Who would like to go first? This is an interesting one.
Are we all going to talk at the same time?
Habib, you're welcome to go first if you'd like.
Well,
in 10 seconds.
Okay, in 10 seconds, I would just talk to people about this as usual.
And Joyce.
Yeah, I like to share to my friends, and the most important part is we have love, or whatever from where you need to have love to share. Yeah, thank you.
Jack.
I think it's just nice to see all the faces and names and people from across this corridor. It's a very rich and I think a great representation of that multicultural mosaic that we've been talking about. So it's just nice to make those connections and see people from around the world as part of our corridor. So I'll take that away and I'll keep it in the front of my mind as I go through my day.
Christine.
I'd like to see it continue. That's pretty much what I would say. Continually learning and sharing and understanding. That's me.
Basil.
I guess reinforcing the notion that there is no single story. Every story adds to our knowledge, and every story makes us better. So that today is another example of that.
Geraldine.
I think we've widened the circle here, which I think is so beautiful. I really feel that this has been a great opportunity for increasing connections. And I hope we will take the opportunities with each other to follow up on some of these connections we've started with today. I certainly would like to anyway. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that leads me to tomorrow night's event. Again, at 5:30, we're going to be jumping into diversity and equity and talking about that. We want to continue the conversation. So please come along if you aren't already planning to. And I really want to thank each of our panel members for sharing your experiences, sharing your views, your perspectives, sharing it all with the audience. Thank you to Cecilia for the very warm welcome. Thank you, Patrick, as well, for those really insightful words at the beginning. And thank you to the audience. This is what it's all about. It's about having these conversations and continuing these conversations with your families, with your colleagues, in your communities. So please come along again tomorrow night and let's keep talking.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, organizers.